Are you guys? Can you guys hear me right now? I'm apparently having problems. I have no idea why. Okay, sorry guys. Sorry guys. I have zero idea what happened. I have no idea what happened there. Nothing. Nothing at all was changed on my side. It just stopped. So I don't know what to say. It's frustrating. I see more people in now. I see Katie, Laura, Masood, McGrossum. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Jason Sumner. I see you too. Thank you for jumping streams. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. Should I not have said Chicago Exposition of 1893? Or should we not have talked about Tyre and Sidon? I don't understand anymore what not to talk about, right? I don't know if you guys knew this, but a couple weeks ago, I did the stream where we talked about 5G and EMF radiation. By the way, that stream got totally deleted, and I got a YouTube strike for that, by the way, that section on the 5G stuff. So I did repost that on other channels, so you can find it, specifically on Rumble. Just that segment, really, because I'm like, that has to be what, because we didn't talk about anything else that could have been like controversial. Just interesting that they're on to us. I don't know what to say. Yeah, they don't like that stuff. And to me, it's like, okay, if they didn't like what I said in that segment, that to me proves that it's probably true and they don't want anyone to know about it. You know, so maybe I did a pretty good job on some of the discussion there. I don't know. I'm gonna take it as encouragement. Yeah, Squiffy Bear, you say that. I think you said something true. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I assume so. I looked at the terms of service, the terms they say that I violated. It had something to do with the only thing on their mile-long list of things they would ban was that saying something about 5G relating to COVID. So if we did that, I don't even remember. And now that I just said that, this one would get deleted too. So whatever. That's why you got to get on the live stream, because it might get deleted by, cultists. It might get deleted. I don't know. What can you say? The times we live in, eh? Yeah, Patrick, I was just talking about a couple of live streams ago got deleted by YouTube. So, Shade Stone, welcome. Yeah, breaking the rules. Some rules are stupid. But yeah, I will say this. I am afraid, guys, that I don't want, for one thing, what we've got going is a good thing here. I don't want that to cause, at this point, I'm not ready for it to cause us to get totally deleted off of YouTube. So it's a little valuable. What we have and what we're able to do is valuable. So yeah, I'm not ready to jeopardize it quite yet. We're able to talk about so many good things and so many interesting things. Okay, let's reset here. Where am I? Okay, let's go back to topics. Anyone now, now that everybody's back on and some new ones have joined. Russell Davis, yes, welcome, brother. I'm sorry, it's like crazy town this morning. The live stream, the initial live stream just like vanished on me, on everybody. I don't know what happened. But here's the topics at this point. Just again, stating that I did some study this week on the Chicago Exposition, or World's Fair of 1893. I have a lot of information on it, but I would like to share some of that in this live stream because I think it lays a foundation for us to start talking about these things, understanding some of the just some of the things that are out there. This will help us level set on at least this one, which was one of the most popular World's Fairs of all time. And then Lindsay Ball, you mentioned Tyre. Is it already destroyed or not? Because it seems like it's not. And then, yes, taking topics. C. Jones, you say, how about historicism? When did that view start? What is it? How far back do we trace the roots of that view? It's a good topic. Whoop. Historicism. And I'm going to put preterism. When did it start? Essentially, C. Jones, that's you. So there's that topic up there. Squiffy Bear, Philippians 2:10 through 11. Does this verse suggest there are living beings under the earth? Okay. I'll put that on there. Now we're getting somewhere. Michael Spinell, is Michael the Archangel Christ pre-incarnate? It's a good topic too. I think that's isn't that a Seventh-day Adventist view? I think. Is Michael the Archangel Christ? I actually have some good information on that, Michael, because I have a video that is done and ready to be released, and I'll probably release it this afternoon, about something that includes Michael, the Archangel. And you say, Michael, you believe he is. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. C. Jones, you say, I was thinking this week about all of the deception in our timeline, how maybe it relates somehow to the historicism view. I hope I can answer that question for you, C. Jones. I don't know that I have a complete answer, but I think it'll be good for us to talk about it and just talk through it a little bit. Laura Masood, the book of Revelation is cyclical. Is that a question? Because I have an answer. Because that's the view of Don Preston, that Revelation tells the same story like 3 times in a row. But I don't know if you want me to talk about it as a topic or not. Rick Bowser, you on there? Good morning, sir. Good morning. Stacia, the Jehovah's Witnesses believe this, meaning I think you mean the Michael the Archangel being Christ, right? Okay. Northbound Believer, you don't know if I've copied or covered this in previous videos, maybe too broad, but I would love to know your take on the transition from the Millennial Kingdom. That's a good one. It kind of folds in. Everything's folding in, guys, on itself. It's like these topics now. I mean, the interest level in this Millennial Kingdom and what happened in our history is so high right now by so many people. Okay, I think we're almost at like the max I can do here. Michael Spinell, I see you say Jesus was not created. We can fold that into your topic. Sorry. Northbound Believer. I was trying to get losing my train of thought. Y'all are going quick this morning. Okay, so there is our topics at this point. That's a lot. I think Lindsay Ball, I want to move yours to the bottom. The reason is not because I don't like you. I love you. but that topic is a tough one for me to do shooting from the hip. I mean, I could go to those passages and we could read them, talk on them. It's going to be hard for me shooting from the hip to really do that, but I will see what I can do. Either if we get to it, we can, or I may save it till next time so I can study a little. So all these others, let's move these around just a little bit. I'm going to start with the Chicago Exposition because it kind of touches some of these other topics y'all are bringing up. Historicism, preterism, start, origin. Is Michael the Archangel Christ? I think that's a good one, Michael. And the transition from the Millennial Kingdom. Let's move that up near the Chicago Exposition because so many people are conflating things together now, and that is something people are, talking about at the same time. All of the world's fairs, what were they? Were they related to the Millennial Kingdom, Tartaria, missing time, phantom time, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so yeah, we'll do that kind of together. And then I think we'll go through the rest of these. I want Michael Spinell to do yours sooner than last. So not to put you at the back, C. Jones. Sorry. And Squiffy Bear, I don't want to put you at the back either. I've done that before, and I feel bad. But there you are. You're in the middle. C. Jones, you're in the middle. And I apologize, Lindsay Ball. I think we'll have to move that one until next time, probably. So, okay. Let me just make sure what you guys are saying in the messages. Make sure there's nothing additional we want to try to attack. Y'all are putting a lot in there. Y'all are ramped up. What is it? What's going on? History would be a great show. Okay. Michael Spinell, you put Joshua, worship the man in Joshua 5. I'm going to mention that as we go here. 5. Commander. Okay. Let's get started. The Chicago Exposition or World's Fair. Chicago Exposition of 1893. Boom. All right, guys, here we go. This is going to be fun. This is going to be good. So I had time this week, and I got sidetracked from all of the videos I was preparing. I've still got one on the early Christian fathers on preterism it's like ready. I just need to record it and make the video. I also, in the meantime, made a video that's going to be released later today called The Rapture, the Resurrection, and the Two Witnesses. Okay, it's going to be good. So that's one I've been working on. But I squeezed in this week, a few hours worth of reading and research on the Chicago World's Fair. So let me pull that stuff up because there's just a lot. It's just a lot. So the Chicago Exposition of 1893. I mean, I know you guys have seen pictures like this, right? So this is a photo of what they did. They called this the White City, okay, in 1893. So let's make sure we put our brains in the time period. If you remember my video on dispensationalism, this is couched in that same time period. So, yeah, it's amazing. You do look at these buildings, the architecture of what was built. It's absolutely amazing. These waterways, by the way, were the water was piped in using huge pumps built by people like Nikola Tesla and Westinghouse and Edison's group. They all collaborated. They built these huge pumps that pumped, tens of thousands of gallons of water into this, quote, city, the city in the city, to make these waterways. So all this water was, of course, artificially pumped in. So it's just amazing what they were able to accomplish. But, going through these photos is just amazing. So this statue here, I believe sculpted on the breastplate of this statue are the words, "I will." And that's speaking about the, human effort, human achievement, and this idea of progress, right? Moving forward. They called this statue, I think, something Mary, like Proud Mary or something like that. Not Proud Mary, but it was something Mary they called this statue. But just very interesting. So I'm just showing you some pictures first. We'll go into more detail here in a second. There's from the back end of that statue, that entire waterway. And so what are you guys saying? You're saying, oh, okay. Squiffy Bear, don't delete people, okay? Don't delete Northbound. All right, but continuing on, guys, just it's correct. The architecture of this, the White City in the Chicago Exposition, is incredible. All these statues, it's just amazing what was done, right? Here's an overhead shot before it was built. So this entire area on the coastline here, all this dirt area, that's where it was being built. So it became this city on the edge of Chicago. And also think about the fact that the Chicago fire of 1871, they were still repairing parts of the city from that fire. I mean, it devastated 1/3 of Chicago. So 1/3 of Chicago burnt to the ground in 1871. So again, you can imagine the sentiment of the people having this being built in their city, for Chicago being chosen as the place for this exposition. The exposition lasted 6 months. So it wasn't, I mean, it was a temporary thing, but 6 months is a pretty long time. So for a 6-month, essentially an amusement park type thing, exhibit, this is a huge undertaking, but for 6 months it was there. People could go. Just think of like a fair coming to your town. It's only there for maybe a few weeks, a couple weeks, and they put everything up. They charge tickets, they get everybody in, and then they tear it all down, right? And that's really what happened with the World's Fair of Chicago Exposition here. So going forward, though, here's another photo. I don't know if this is, I'm assuming this is as they were tearing it down. So again, from the back of that statue, they started tearing down buildings. There's one of the, I don't remember all the names of the buildings. There's tons of buildings, by the way. This is one of the great halls. It might have been the main hall. I can't remember for sure. This is one I wanted you guys to see. This shot right here of these statues. And this is one of the shots, one of the few that I found that revealed, if you can see behind those statues, do you see how they're held up with scaffolding and girder beams? So this kind of shows you that some of this city was a bit of a facade, okay? There are some parts where things were false walls and held up by scaffolding, beams. So I just showed you this one to show you, some people say, oh, everything was false, it was all facades. I don't think that's true. But some of it was, right? And so we can see that clearly here from this picture. But as we go on, here's another shot of one of those grand halls. Just amazing stuff for sure. Definitely amazing. And then at night, of course, they had Tesla and Westinghouse work to light this whole thing. So at night, everything was just lit up. It was crazy cool. So there's a shot. That's awesome. So yeah, this was an amazing event for sure. Now, we're going to talk about that, this idea that this was somehow something more than an event, okay? Something more. But we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And here's, again, this statue stands in Chicago now. And this is not the original. So the original statue there, in this shot, but this is not the original statue. It's a replica of that original statue that now stands in Chicago, present day, as far as I know. So I just went through all this different stuff. Electricity, electricity was a big part of this exposition. And Tesla was, of course, involved in this one. That's why I picked this one to study, right? I wanted to know what was Tesla's involvement, What did he do there? He was such an amazing man. He did so many amazing things. I was just like, this is the one I want to study first. It was pre-1900. It had all the markings of one I wanted to know about, right? And by the way, there are World's Fairs that went way far back into the 1700s. I think even further back into the 1500s, if I'm not mistaken. So as my study continues and expands, I'm going to go there. But this is just the first step for me. Is like, okay, this one is the one I hear about a lot. I want to know more. So I'm digging in on this one first. But there was electricity running all through this city, okay? They ran it, what I understand is they ran it off of the generators coming from the Niagara Falls area. And so they were able to pipe energy into this city in an enormous way, but it was all based on those generators. Where's the shot? I got to find one shot I wanted to show. Oh, am I gonna miss it? I can't find it. There was this huge switchboard in one of the, oh, here it is. This switchboard. This is the switchboard that controlled the power for the entire city. So once they built and, you know, ran the electricity into the city, this is the switchboard. Of course, their electronics were much bigger back then. So this is the type of switchboard. You can see over here to the left of this man standing, you can see some of these are these just big switches, you know, big handles you grab and push down. So this is how they ran the city, and they could switch off half the city here, right? So anyway, I wanted to show that. But going back down here to the electricity stuff, one of the other cool things they had was this moving sidewalk they built on the pier outside the Chicago Exposition. This moving sidewalk, and as many people as could fit on the thing could get on it. It was electric run, and for 5 cents apparently, according to what's on that sign in the front of this wall, I don't know if you can see that, but it says 5 cents. They could get on and ride this thing all the way to the end of the pier and back. So is the sound too low, guys? Can y'all just comment on that real quick? Any sound? Is the sound too low? Lindsay Ball, you say it's too low. C. Jones, you had to get Bluetooth. Let me see. Is it better now? Is it better now? How about now? Is it better now? I'm gonna probably leave it where it is right now, and I hope that suffices. I turned up my mic a little bit. All right. But this moving sidewalk, you know, I think sometimes we look back at these things and we see, wow, they had this moving sidewalk. That's pretty cool. Like, we don't have anything like that today. Well, part of the problem, the reality is that it might not be that practical in our day right now. So while this is a cool thing as an amusement park attraction, like, what purpose would this really serve in the real world when people can just walk down there? Probably almost, I don't know if, I'm assuming probably you could walk faster to the end of the pier than ride on this moving sidewalk, but it is interesting, okay? So that's definitely cool. Here's the ticket. Now, I found a ticket that this is the ticket they used to get on that thing when they were there. It's pretty cool. Anyway, I think it was for sale on eBay, honestly. Okay. So here's some cool things as I was looking through a couple of these books I found online, page 305 in this. 305. So I want to make sure y'all can see this good enough. Make it big enough here. Let's see. Okay, so this is a book from 1893. The year that the fair occurred, they put this book out. And honestly, guys, there's so many books on this World's Fair that there's no shortage of information to read about it from people that wrote them at that time. So I'm just saying, we're going to read some interesting, really interesting things in a second that were said about this World's Fair. But for a conspiracy to be hidden in this somewhere, some kind of magical special thing that nobody knows about except people that, you know, like ourselves that are looking back on it. I don't know. I don't see, from what I'm seeing about this, I don't know how that could be hidden. Because there's so much information. I literally went to the Internet Archive and searched for books, and I got like 50 or 60 results on books that were written from 1893 to 1900 about the Chicago Exposition. There are tons of things written about this. So, anyway, I wanted to go to page, so what page is it? Oops, wrong one. Let's see here. What page? Page 305, sorry. Okay. Page 305. Yeah, here we go. And what was I looking for there? Yeah, it talks about the alternating current here. This is the section of this book. It's all about the entire exposition. This is the section specifically on the electricity used for the World's Fair here. And it talks about one of the most direct evidences of the magnificent resources of American engineers is given in the conduit of the incandescent lighting of the fair. So the lighting was a big deal. The Westinghouse Electric Manufacturing Company has secured the contract to furnish the immense service at figures far below the cost, as such work has always been done. It became necessary to devise a system more economical and more flexible, and this was done. They devised and constructed in less than 6 months larger machines than had ever been built for this work before on radically different lines, embodying the principles of what? Alternating system of transmission. So, alternating current of Tesla was the basis for powering this World's Fair, this exposition. Okay, so that's one thing. Then page 308. This was really cool too, guys. Page 308. 307, 308. Okay, listen to this, guys. This is cool. Let me see if I can get this bigger so you can read it too. Of course, this is a 2,500 horsepower electric generator in the powerhouse of the intramural railway built by General Electric. So I don't know if that's even related to the fair, but perhaps it was used. All right, this is the part I wanted you to see. The machinery used for the fountains is also used for charging the electric launches. So some of the boats that were in the water were electric. There are 50 of these beautiful little boats, averaging 40 feet long, having a carrying capacity of 30 people. After 5 or 6 hours of charging, each little launch would have stored away in its hold about 40 horsepower hours of effective electrical energy, sufficient for 10 or 12 hours continuous run. And it talks about the charging station. Or maybe that's what this picture is, the charging station that was used to do it. The most expensive charging station ever built in the United States and probably in the world. Do you see now? This is cool. I didn't even know they had rechargeable stuff at this time period, but they did. They had rechargeable boats on the water, electric boats. After 6 hours of charging, they would be sufficient to run for 10 or 12 hours on a charge. That's cool, guys. I mean, there's no other way to say that's cool. So, just these massive machines, massive generators, massive power involved. That was really the point. That was the point of this exposition, guys. It was to show this power off. That was what people were paying to see. Along with all the other things, and we're going to see in a minute, there's a ton of things that were at this fair, tons of things. I didn't find the babies with incubators. I didn't find babies in incubators in this World's Fair. I did not find that. But anyway, just say it. So if you're waiting for the babies in the incubators, the Cabbage Patch Kids, I don't have it. It's not in this one. Maybe in the future I'll find it. Okay, then page 322 to 323. Let me go there real quick because this was cool too. 322, You can see how much information there is on this, guys. I mean, you can read all this yourself. In fact, I read this whole section on all the electrical stuff, and it gets into all the machines they use, the setups, everything. I thought this page was cool. There's this Edison's company made this. So Edison with General Electric and built this. Okay, apparently designed by a Luther Stieringer. This tower was 82 feet high and arose from a circular pavilion 32 feet in diameter. Let me see if I can get that bigger for you. A little bit. It's not the best. 32 feet in diameter. The glass exhibit in this pavilion is made by the Phoenix Glass Company of Pittsburgh and is grouped in space between the base of the column, which is polygonal, faced with mirrors, circular row. Do you get the picture? This is all glass and crystal and lighting by Edison with direct current. Okay, so, but when this thing was made and turned on, especially at night, this was incredible. I want, at some point, maybe I will find a picture of this. It looks like, too, underneath, as I'm looking at it, and I hope you can see it, it looks like underneath this was an exhibit of the glass of the Phoenix Company, the Phoenix Glass Company. So then using Edison's lighting to light the whole thing and just shine light everywhere. I'm sure it was refracting and reflecting all over the ground when it was on at night. It was probably amazing. So again, this was definitely cool. Definitely cool stuff. So then I started digging in on Tesla a little bit, right? What did Tesla do at this thing? Well, Tesla, he worked with Westinghouse specifically. Westinghouse Electric Manufacturing. There's one of their booths there. And then right next to it is General Electric, which was mostly, Edison's stuff. But then here is the machine that Tesla was working with, some of the apparatus that Tesla had at the Westinghouse exhibit. And I want you to see something here in the middle. Let me get my little tool here for writing. Drawing. Need to drawer. This in the middle, do you see this? This little apparatus was called the Egg of Columbus, okay? And Tesla added it into this exhibit kind of as a tongue-in-cheek, but a way to demonstrate the power of some of the things that they were working on. So as you can see, let me put this back on here. You can see the egg right there sitting on that pad, okay, that kind of wheel. And I'll give you a better view of it. Here it is. So that's what that thing looked like. And the Egg of Columbus was this concept. It was kind of a joke. It was kind of a riddle where I can't remember the whole story, but this question was posed to these people in this scenario. How can you make an egg stand on its end, right? And so the people who were given this task, they puzzled for hours and hours. And then the person who postulated the question in the beginning finally just takes the egg and smashes the top of it so it sits up on its end. And they're all dumbfounded, like they didn't think of that, right? So it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek riddle of how do you make an egg stand on its end? Well, Tesla, as part of his demonstration, he brought this copper egg and he put it on top of a coiled torus that was running electricity all through it. It was part of the engine. But what happened when they turned this engine on was that the egg would spin and stand up on its end, okay? And this is actually a drawing someone did because they had seen it happen. And so this is a drawing of what happened. They would not only stand the egg up on end when they turned this thing on, but they would put other balls and spheres in different locations on top of this electric toroid wound thing, and they would spin. They would just sit there and spin on the top of this thing. So really cool stuff, right? I would have loved to have been there. Absolutely loved it. Another interesting thing that Tesla did during this was, where is it? Oh yeah, his neon light display. So this picture right here, see if I can get it bigger. Yeah. This was a neon light display that Tesla did also in that electric house, the electric exhibit. So they had fluorescent lamps too, you know, from Tesla. So he had neon there. He was, you know, exhibiting that. So everything that, you know, all the things that we're still seeing today were being exhibited in 1893. It's amazing, guys. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Okay, so there's Tesla's neon thing. Okay, so I think we're getting close now to where I wanted to show you guys a little bit of the stuff, a little bit of the writing that I read about this thing, this exposition. So I'm trying to make sure I go at this the right way. So I had some notes down here. We did my page on all that stuff. Tesla's egg. Now this PDF of a book or writing essentially. Oh no. Here we go. Okay, the best things to be seen at the World's Fair. So this PDF, this book, let's see if I can, yeah, here's the title page. The best things to be seen at the World's Fair, published by the authority of the Exposition Management. So the actual Exposition published this book in October 31st of 1893, as that stamp shows right there. It was 50 cents to buy this book. But I just wanted to show this because as we come down here, and you can read, how many pages is this? 215 pages. You can see all the things that were included in this exhibit. All the things. Administration, agricultural. They had a scale replication of the Eiffel Tower. I don't know if y'all can see that. A scale version of the Eiffel Tower, and I actually read about the Eiffel Tower scaled down version, that the replica, that they were sued over it by Eiffel, or the people that maintained the Eiffel Tower in Paris, because the Paris Exposition had happened just a few years earlier than this exposition, and of course that had the real Eiffel Tower, and so because it was followed to the bolt and the rivet on this scaled version, they got sued over it, had a lawsuit they had to deal with. They had electric buoys, illumination, dairy exhibits, Dutch settlements. They had settlements replicated from all the countries of the world. So there were sections of every country in the world, all these ethnicities that were exhibits, right? And actually, I think they did bring in people from all these different countries. They had a Dutch settlement. Each state in general had an exhibit. So Arkansas, you can see there was an Arkansas building. There was like a Missouri building. There was all sorts of buildings for every state, every culture. It was huge. Balloon ascension. Now, I can't remember. I think I did look at that. I don't remember what it was. There was a replica of Blarney Castle where you can kiss the Blarney Stone. I mean, can you believe all this stuff they had? Brazilian building. The Ferris wheel here, it's talked about. Cairo Street. There was a street that was all replicated after Cairo in the Middle East, in Egypt. California building, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fisheries, I don't know, everything. Just so many things. Yeah, this is literally kind of like the program guide for the entire exhibit, but they did it after the fact. Yes, Northbound Believer, like Epcot. That's exactly what I thought when I was looking at this stuff. It's kind of like Epcot. Like you go to the different sections for the different countries of the world. Trying to just see if there's anything interesting other than this. You know, it's just all this stuff. All the electrical stuff is there. So I just wanted to show you this, that you can go and read about every single exhibit that was at this fair. There's nothing stopping anyone from it. What else was there? I'm trying to see if there's anything else in this document that I want to show before moving on. Don't know if there was. Let's see. Yeah, no. I just wanted to show that. So then this document to me was amazing. So now we're going to see this is the interesting connection. Everyone wants to know, was this the Millennial Kingdom, right? Well, we're going to talk a little about the celestial city, this white city, okay? Because it's in a writing I found. And you're probably like, oh my gosh, we're there. So there's this other book I found from the same time period. It's written in 1895. This book was written, well, it wasn't a book. It says it's a lecture on what you missed by not visiting the World's Fair. Written in 1895 by, who was it? I think it's a pastor, if I remember correctly, that wrote this. Well, shoot a monkey. I don't know if I'll be able to, I didn't record the person that wrote this, but maybe it's at the top here. So much stuff. Okay. Mark Stevens. Yeah, it was by a Mark Stevens. And if I remember correctly, he is a pastor, but he wrote this 2 years after the World's Fair. And this was the one that caught my eye. So I'll just go through some little sections here. Page 3 here in the first page. Yep. I'll just read some of this first page. It seemed the crowning year in the world's history of grandeur and glory. Okay? For all sciences and arts from rude beginnings were represented, leading us into the fullness of perfection. And we felt there had been reached an eventful epoch in the world's history, so marked as to awaken mingled emotions of the profoundest thought, even of sacred joy, as were presented to us themes for thought and inquiry. And in vain we tried to measure to the fullest extent the great work which had been assigned to the officials of the World's Fair. In wisest ways, from God himself, who had been given his watchful care over an undertaking which brought us near, oh so near, to his wonderful love toward the children of men. How we all appreciated and improved our opportunities of coming into his kingdom at such a time as this. Do you hear this? The decisive answer can only come in the final day from God himself. Interesting. Who caused humanity to be imbued with wisdom to create a marble-like city which seemed in touch with the infinite, and to give us a glimpse of the celestial city which encircles the eternal throne. Interesting. So this document, by the way, this was the closest thing I could find to anything relating to the millennium in regards to the Chicago Exposition of 1893, okay? And this pastor is saying that the general sentiment was that this, in some way, this white city of the World's Fair, 1893 in Chicago, represented the kingdom, represented the city in heaven that we talk about, guys, on this channel because of the ancient texts we read. The New Jerusalem, the real Jerusalem, okay? Just really cool that this is said, and also it recognizes that this city in the World's Fair was just a glimpse of the celestial city that encircles the eternal throne. Recognizing it's not any kind of eternal city, but in the effort, in the intention of the people behind this thing, that it was made to be something that grand. It was made to be something special, okay? Just interesting, cool. So this is just a neat writing. So on page 4, let's see, yeah, down here, he keeps going. The ultimate good accomplished in bringing together the great from the nations of the earth will not remain an unknown history, for all that was accomplished in the many congress of religion, temperance, others by words of helpful cheer and wisdom, lent by good men and women, are fully recorded by him who in the presence of the assembled world will unfold their records made for a final report. Do you know what he's talking about here? He's saying that the acts of the people who brought this exposition together will be recorded by God, and then that will be opened in the books in the final judgment. That's what he's talking about right here. It's not that the Chicago Exposition was anything other than, according to this guy, an attempt to reach out towards heaven. I mean, do you see what I'm saying? They felt like they were doing a good work in making the city, doing all these things to show people the progress of humanity. I don't know. That to me is the main takeaway here. It's just that at this time period, there was so much interest in what humans could achieve, this side of heaven. Just very cool. He says that at that final report, the final judgment here, he says, trying to get some, let's highlight this booger. I don't want that. I want to highlight. There we go. Then shall all be made plain, that which awaken new aspirations and high ideals to be striven for, leaving in their wake memories most tender and sacred which are awakened. And tonight we bring forth from the most hallowed recesses of the soul the cultivation, unfolding, budding, blossoming, fruiting, which is yet to receive in the final tintage from the Son of Righteousness. Do you see this stuff that he's saying here? This is amazing to me. He's talking about Jesus Christ, of course, which mellowing into a ripeness of enduring heaven will be gathered by the soft hand of paternal love into his kingdom of light. This is cool stuff, guys. This is really cool to read. Just the perspective of a pastor talking about that this exposition was something special, but not in the way we've been hearing about it from people, but only in the sense that it's humans reaching out with their best efforts to do their best on earth to make progress, to be good, to build up mankind. And then essentially, as he's saying, prepare themselves for the world to come. Just really cool. I mean, you don't hear people talking like this these days, guys. You don't hear people talking like this. I'm going to skip a few of these. I don't want to take too terribly long on some of this, but I think we're starting to make the point here. Page 11 is what I'm looking for now. Page 11. I did read all of this, by the way. And some of you are saying, put this in the links. I want to see this. I will put these links in the links in the description for you guys. So page 11, center. So here's the kicker, guys. This is what I keep reading as I read these documents, right? The best of us realize these two uncontrollable forces, democracy and science, which have toiled through the centuries with ceaseless activity and are transforming our world, our heritage, and all that we love. This is what this is all about, guys. I think if you watched my video on dispensationalism, as I studied that history, what was happening, what was coming into being in the world, these people saw the progress of humanity and what was happening because democracies plus capitalism plus science, progress was being made at such a rate. And this was the middle of the Industrial Revolution, right? Industrial Revolution. They were seeing so many big advances. They talk in, and I don't want to have to go into all of this, guys, but they talk in another writing. There's another book that I don't want to have to take out. I think it'll take too much time. The progress of just simply the steam engine and the locomotive that could move goods and services across thousands of miles from the east coast of America to the west coast of America was such progress. They are talking about in these writings that now we can solve world hunger. We can solve world hunger. Tesla, if you know much about him, he was saying with electricity, he felt like he could deliver free energy to all nations of the world. So this is what was in the minds of humanity at this time. Right at the end, towards the end of the 19th century, everyone started thinking this. And then what happened? What did we see as we talked about the dispensationalism video, in that video about what happened at the same time? You had different forces at work. Specifically in my mind, the Zionist Congress, the Zionist World Congress that started about at this time. That over the next 2 or 3 decades began efforts to stamp out this progress and stop it, control it, so that humanity could not progress anymore. I think now this is where the rubber meets the road, guys, for this particular body of research I did. This, I think, is the direction humanity was headed in when the evil families, the evil bloodlines of the world started getting their hands on it because they saw it happening and they were like, we can't allow this stuff to happen. We'll never get our hands on it again and control it the way we want to if we don't do it now. Because they saw all this progress and everything was coming out in a way that Tesla was saying he could provide electricity to the entire world for free. Then like things like the steam locomotive, they were able to deliver goods and services across the world at low cost. And then these evil people in the background, watching all of this carefully, decided we can't let this happen. And what happened not too shortly after this stuff in the late 19th century, early 20th, we started seeing the Depression, the World Wars, everything happening that took all of this out and destroyed all of this progress. Just stopped it in its tracks. Stopped it in its tracks. So I guess, guys, what I'm saying is that to me, as I did study through this stuff, and I read 3 or 4 of these writings, and I've got other things that I want to look at that will take me further down this path. But as I looked at all this stuff, I just feel like at this time period, everyone was excited about the progress of humanity, manufacturing, building things, building stuff that would help humanity grow and become something better, lift some of the more impoverished countries of the world out of poverty. This is what everybody was talking about. And of course, science was having leaps and bounds. And again, we talked in the dispensationalism video about Christianity and science and the conflicts that were being, talked about. And of course, Darwin and the Marxists brought evolution out from under a rock and made it up and then promulgated that to try to, again, stop this idea of progress, stop this stuff. So, anyway, Lindsay Ball, the fairs that had huge globes, as I understand it, were later on. I saw, what was it? World's Fair Globe. It was New York. It was in Queens that was there. Okay, I just saw that this morning. This is the one. It was in the World's Fair in New York in 1964. So that was way late. Way late. That was the globe. Is that the globe you're talking about? I don't know yet if any of the earlier ones had globes. I really don't know. They had spheres, even in the hand of this. Look what's underneath that eagle. Do you see that? That's a sphere, but I don't see a globe. I'm just saying it's an interesting concept. I haven't studied globes throughout the old World's Fairs, but anyway. Anyway, I just came away from this study feeling like it was the progress of humanity that was being celebrated. And yes, these are amazing, amazing structures. Amazing. But it's not like we couldn't build this stuff if we wanted to today. And they wanted to. They were on fire. Squiffy Berries say they went about poisoning our food, our air, and took over our schools and institutions. Absolutely. By the way, did you know that the educational system with John Dewey started in the same time frame as the World Wars, like the 1915 or so about? All of that stuff, it was right after this. Do you see how that works in history? Within a decade of some of these, of the biggest World's fairs, all of, everything started going to the crapper, to be perfectly frank. We don't have these kinds of celebrations anymore. They won't allow us to have these kinds of celebrations anymore, because the people that had the purse strings when this stuff was being built, they hadn't quite figured out what they were going to do about it yet. They knew it was all happening, but then of course, like for instance, Tesla, when he got alternating current working so well, they could deliver energy over hundreds of miles with even the same wire systems that Edison was using. Well, I think it was Westinghouse and General Electric both just canceled. They reneged on Tesla's contracts because they didn't want him delivering power, especially once he started researching delivering energy through the air. They were like, we got to stop this because we won't make any money on it, right? So again, the screws of control start being tightened at this time after this. So to me, that's the real conspiracy here. And yes, someone in the chat, you mentioned Trump and his freedom cities. And isn't it interesting, guys? That Trump wants to make freedom cities where he emphasizes manufacturing. He said something about flying cars in that spiel from yesterday at CPAC. He said all these interesting things that were like, and as I was studying this World's Fair thing, I'm like, he wants to bring it back. He wants to bring it back. He is of that lineage of inventors and that time period. His father, Trump Sr., definitely was of that mindset and ran with those people who were part of that human progress mindset. And I think that's what Trump wants to bring back. So that's just what I think. It's just interesting. C. Jones, something to those Trump books from the 1800s too. I don't really know what to think about that. I have that book, by the way, the Baron Trump book. I think I have that. Do I have that one, or is it another one? Something similar to that. I think I have Baron's Great Adventure, or whatever that book is. Baron Trump's Great Adventure. Anyway, yes, Armored Raven, Baron Trump Time Travel. That's it. It's very interesting. I don't know what to think about all of that yet. But anyway, I wanted to take you guys on this journey that I went on this week. At least you know what I saw and what I know. I will, later today, I fill in the description for this video. I'll put as many of the links as I can fit. I mean, I have like 50. But I might post I'll do as many links as I can for you guys so you can see some of this stuff. It's just so cool. I wish I was there. Wish I could have been there. See it. Very cool. Here's a map. It's kind of cool too. Oh, I'm not showing anymore. There's a map of the whole thing. I thought that was neat. Rand McNally, they offer their services to build a map for the entire exposition, which is kind of cool. You can see how big it was. It actually labels everything. I didn't actually look that close at it. Anyway. That's a lot, guys. Awesome. I love it. I definitely one of the next things I've got to find is the babies, the incubator babies. I've got to know what is that. I've got to know. Like, if I can find this, you'd think I'd be able to find that. I mean, I just got to figure out when those things happen and then try to target that stuff specifically with searching. And maybe I can find the same kinds of things about that might explain a little of it at all. What is it? Lindsay Ball, you say, look up His Holy Story YouTube channel. I'll put that on my notes. I do want more info. Like Johnny Five on Short Circuit. Need input. Need input. All right. Phew. Alice Bailey's 10-point plan. There's too much. There's too much. I can't do it all. I'm putting this in my notes. Put stuff in my notes. All right, guys. Anything else here? I'm just looking through your chat real quick. Make sure I'm not missing anything important. Northbound Believer, you say, so then you think the people are the ones who put on the World's Fairs and not the controllers? I think at this time period that the controllers, so to speak, the elite, the Rockefellers and J.P. Morgans, because, by the way, J.P. Morgan's, his name was mentioned in these books. They were involved, but they didn't know where the tech was going to all end up. And I think it was over the next few decades after this that they started pulling back out, because they were like, we've been making money and we've made it up to a point, but we see the writing on the wall. If this technology gets out, if mankind progresses to a certain point, it's like they would saturate the market, right? If they were able to deliver high volume energy or goods and services at low cost around the globe, then at that point the market is saturated. They can't make any more money, and they realized it. Okay, if you've heard now probably in your studies that the only way that the bankers can make money is by war. That's really true to a point, because if they build up an economy to the point where it's at stasis, at a platform, a plateau, where it's just going in circles, then no money is being generated, no wealth is being generated. It's just a cyclical thing. And so they had to cause the world wars. They had to cause all this stuff to the Great Depression, all this other stuff to destroy an economy, destroy economies all over the place, and then build them back in the way they wanted so that they could, again, like Squiffy Bear is talking about, the Federal Reserve, different world banks, there's central banks in all these countries now that were built all through the next few decades here. And that implemented their system of control, the lending system, the borrowing system that you and I are now a part of. We're born into it. We're going to die in it unless it changes. And all of our time, our money, our effort goes into the system, and we are allowed to have back out what they deem worthy, what they deem us worthy to have back. They're like, if you will pay into our system of lending and borrowing, we give you a home to live in. It's a nice home. It's the American dream. You know, this home is the American dream for everyone to have a home. So as long as you will get our loans to do it, you can have a nice home. And so all the people that are saving their money to buy a home outright with cash, they live in poverty, abject poverty, their whole lives while they're waiting to get enough money to afford a nice home, while all the people who buy into the system and they get a loan to pay for a nice home, they get to live in the nice home now. And essentially that's owned by the bank, it's owned by the controllers, and they have full say over your life and your tax money and everything else. Do you see how it's a trap? It's a trap. It's a trap. What's it? Admiral Akbar says it's a trap. So, yeah, it's good information, guys. It's good. I think that you will have fun looking at the stuff that I looked at. It is awesome. It is fun, it is interesting. I just love reading stuff from these earlier time periods. I love it because for one, they're smart. Like, they're smart people and they write smart things. Like the stuff I read to you, while it's wordy, they're saying so much with so few good words that I wish it was like, I wish we did that today. We've gone down. We've been dumbed down, guys. We really have. And it's sad. But I'm smiling. I'm smiling. We get to talk about it. Oh, goodness. All right. Yeah, y'all are saying things now that I will get banned for, so I'm going to stop. All right. Oh, this is good stuff, guys. I love it. I love talking with you guys about it, and then seeing what you say is amazing. It's amazing. Whew. Okay, let's go on to topic number 2. Topic number 2 is by Northbound Believer. What is the transition from the Millennial Kingdom into our current time period? What was it? Right? I think that's what we kind of want to talk about. So, I don't really have much in the way of screen stuff to add to this, but let's talk about it real quick. So, Northbound Believer. There's so many ideas out there, right? So many ideas right now. It's so hard to know what you mean, what other people are meaning, what everyone on this call is going to think when I say things. It's so hard. There's so much going on right now. So, my personal opinion, still based on the information that I have, which is not much, but I don't really think any of us have much information on this. My personal opinion right now is that our history has been shifted as far as chronology, and I feel like we're missing about 500 years still. Some people say 1,000, but I still think it's around 500, and I think there's been manipulation that it's not like they just deleted 1,000 years. So, for instance, the coins that have, I or J 569, that's the year 569. Well, that could be even in my viewpoint, right? But that doesn't mean they just deleted 1,000 years. It just means that whoever in this time period is perpetrating the lies is saying that those coins were from 1569 instead of 569, right? So just because the lie is that the coin was from 1,000 years either way, different than it actually says, doesn't mean that 1,000 years were deleted from history, okay? So that's where I stand on that. I do think that around 500 years were deleted from our chronology. So it's really been 1,500 years or so since Christ. Okay, about 1,500 years. That's my opinion. And so in regards to the transition from the millennium time period, which would have been from 70 AD, and let's just go 1,000 years, 1070 AD, and assuming that based on the mess up in chronology, my assumption is that we are in around 1,500 right now. I believe that 1,000 years was a heavenly reign of God, of Christ on the throne next to God in heaven with the saints, as he talks about in Revelation 20. I don't have any reason to believe otherwise. He said all through the book of Matthew and multiple other books in the New Testament, heavenly kingdom, kingdom of God, blah, blah, blah. Great. To me, that's what it is. So at the end of the 1,000 years in 1070 AD, which was 500 years ago from now, I believe Satan was loosed. And there's so many things that happened at that time period. One of the biggest things, 2 things that I'm seeing now as big things that happened in that time period when Satan was loosed. Muslims came into being. The Islamic religion came into being. The Catholic Church, I believe, might have risen out of that. The current Catholic Church, the evil Catholic Church. And at the same time, what is it? What's the other thing? Oh, heavens. I'm not going to remember. It was the Muslims and the Catholic Church. There was something else. I may come to me in a minute. But all this stuff happened at the time period. And then for 500 years, I believe we've just been living in this time where these pretty wicked factions of people have been amassing forces, and it's Satan behind the scenes amassing forces. He's trying to build back what he feels is rightfully his, and then I think he wants to wage war against God. I think that's what he wants to do. And so that's my personal opinion, that the transition between the millennium and the now time period, the last 500 years, to me is just Satan being loosed and some things happened. Oh, the other thing was the Masoretes. the Jews, became Kabbalistic and evil. I mean, not that they weren't probably already a little, but Kabbalism had all of its genesis mainly around the 1,000-year time period. So you have the wicked Catholic Church, you have Islam, and you have Kabbalism, corrupting the Jews even further than they ever were. And the Masoretes. And we have the correct version of the Bible, the Masoretes, coming out, right? All of that in the same span of time, right there at 1,000 years. So to me, that connects with Satan being loosed. Now, of course, if you take the tack and the belief system that the millennium was on earth, and that somehow maybe Christ reigned on earth somewhere, and that the jury's out. People say all sorts of things about where Christ would have reigned. Was it Jerusalem? Was it Tartaria? Was it, I don't know. Where do people say? I don't even know. And there was some kind of special thing happening on earth where all the millennium believers, the millennium saints, were reigning on earth. Then at the end of the 1,000 years, I mean, this is all speculation as far as I'm concerned. I don't have any solid evidence on any of this, and it's not my current view either. So all I can say is that what people are saying is that transition then would have been the second resurrection, where all of those believers are taken to heaven. And so you have the empty cities that people show in the pictures, right? Empty cities everywhere. I don't have a good explanation for those pictures either, but I don't know if it really means what people say it means. So that's the view, though, that the believers would have been part of the second resurrection at that time. And the funny thing about the word resurrection is it doesn't mean people that are alive going to heaven. It means people that are dead going to heaven. So that's an interesting thing. So people are really saying it's a rapture. It's live people going to heaven. Just boom, vanish. And then apparently the other thing people are saying is that at that time, all the children and babies were too young. They were under the age of accountability, so they were left behind. So you had all these cities where all the adults from age something teens upward went on to heaven, and then all these kids were left. And so they trafficked these children all over the world and gave them to families, right? You could buy these children, whatever, orphan trains, right? So I think that is the viewpoint that a lot of people have, but I don't know where they get it other than speculation upon speculation and some of the evidence of the pictures that we find that are unexplainable. The pictures don't evidence what these people believe, but they evidence something strange. So, I don't fault people for putting ideas together and coming up with scenarios. I just did that for you, right? I just put them together and came up with a scenario, but I don't personally believe in that scenario right now. I just really don't. So I don't know, Northbound Believer, if that addresses your question. It at least gives you my viewpoint, which was that it was kind of a soft transition. Satan was loosed and started to, again, make nations of the earth do bad things, and bad things started happening. Whereas some other people think it was a much more profound, spiritual, kind of magical, miraculous thing, right? Where people were vanishing, cities and countries and cultures were just not wiped off, but vanished off the face of the earth, and some cataclysmic things happened. Maybe in the future we'll have some way to find some of that stuff out, but I don't have a way to know that stuff. And based on the indications I get from the writings, the scripture, and the early Christian writings, there was no earthly reign. Because we have Christian writings from the time of Christ well into the 3rd and 4th century that say, they're just talking about heaven. They're like, God's kingdom in heaven, and we want to go there. We must leave off the sin that besets us and then run the race for the prize ahead of us in the kingdom, And so to me, that's what it was all about. But People want it to be something different. I don't have any evidence really I'm still going to be the skeptic on that, I guess. Northbound, you say, so how does that track with the little season supposedly being around 335 years, referenced in Daniel? The little season, I don't know, is referenced in Daniel. I think it's in Revelation 20, the little season. And to me, 500 years is a little season. It could be even less than 500 years based on what the chronology is. I just don't know at this point. It could be that we've lost more like 1,000 years, and that it could be that we really don't have as much time between when all these evil entities like Catholic Church, Muslims, Masoretic Kabbalists sprung up. It may be that that's actually pretty recent, and that we're just getting started in this age that's the end of time. Because again, I always go back to these old Jewish ideas and old prophetic ideas of a 7,000 year history of the world that we're in the end of right now. So I think that it's possible. Well, I don't know. There's just a lot. It's just a lot, man. So Northbound, you say there's a reference in Daniel. I don't know that reference. You'd have to give me the reference, because I don't want to read chapters 8 through 10 or 8 through 12 of Daniel to figure it out. I can't remember which. I don't remember that. C. Jones, you say, I lean that the spring up of this evil didn't start 500 years ago, but it's more recent. Okay? Yeah, I mean, it's possible for sure. That could be the deception, right? The deception of they, within the past 200 or so years, just created a bunch of history so that we would not know where we are, not know what's going on. But I don't know. It's a lot of history to create too. So I don't know. It's tough. As you can see, like when I dig back at history, well, the Chicago Exposition was just 120, 130 years ago. But we can dig that far back and we know that's pretty legit. There's nothing skeptical or erroneous about that time period. I bet that all the way back to the beginning of America, we have very good records of all the history. So I don't think there's going to be any shift or deception in that time period. That I would just imagine we're not going to have that much deception in the last 200 years or so. But I could be wrong. Lindsay Ball, you say all of Daniel was fulfilled. I think that's probably true, but if you have a reference there, Northbound, I'll look at it for sure. All right, let's go to the next topic. What time is it? Woo, guys, we took forever. I took forever on the Chicago thing. I apologize if I messed this up. I think it was awesome, but apologies. I think we're only going to get this one more topic in. And that's Michael Spinell's question about, is Michael the Archangel, or Michael the Archangel, is he Christ? Yes. So I believe, by the way, Michael, that the name Michael, and it's your name, so you should know, but I think that name means the one of God, the man of God, or something like that. It's not the man of God, it's something like that. Mikhael. Ha'el is the God. So Mik, I got to figure out what that is. Meaning of Michael. It's Hebrew. Michael, name meaning. He who is like God. That's too much. That's not right. It says here on behindthename.com that is from the Hebrew blah, 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 Mikhael, meaning who is like God. That seems, I'm skeptical on that. But anyway, That's what people say it means. Okay, so we can at least go with that for now. Yeah. Okay, you're all already saying it. Yeah. So Michael. So the idea that Michael is, let's do this. Let's pull up Joshua 5 you mentioned, because I think it's where it's the commander of the armies of God or whatever. So let's go. Come on, what's wrong with me? Joshua 5. Let's get that bigger. All right, Passover at Gilgal. The children of Israel camped in Gilgal, kept the Passover the 14th day of the month in the plains of Jericho. They did eat of the old corn of the land on the morrow at the Passover, unleavened cakes and parched corn. By the word corn is not corn, it's produce or yield or wheat. It's not corn, it's just a translation. And the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old produce of the land. Neither had the children of Israel manna anymore, but they did eat of the fruit of the land of Canaan for that year. And it came to pass when Joshua was by Jericho that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over him against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said, Art thou for us or for our adversaries? He said, Nay, but as captain of the Lord or captain of the host of the Lord am I now come. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship, and said to him, What saith my Lord unto his servant? The captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, Loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place you stand is holy. And Joshua did so. Yeah, very interesting. Now, I think that the reality is that the reason people think this is Michael is because Michael seemed to wage war, especially in Daniel chapter 9, right? Is it Daniel 9 or 11 or 12? It says that he was waylaid while he was battling with the prince of so-and-so, like an angel. So they were having angelic battles. And so I think that's why people think Michael is the commander of the armies of the Lord, which may or may not be the truth, but definitely has something to do with that. And I think, Patrick, what you said, that Michael was the angel that presided over Israel as its lead angel, I think that's sort of true. That's the sense we get. I'm trying to remember where I got that sense from in the scriptures, but I think that that's talked about. That Michael had some specific, goal of protection over Israel. That was his station. And so, as Patrick Schmidt, you're saying that every nation and church has its own angel. Yes, maybe that's it, that it's the church, quote, church angel of the presiding angel. Like the churches in Revelation each had their own angel, the 7 lampstands, and the light was the angel and the lampstand was the church, right? Yeah, so that makes sense. To me, that's what I feel about Michael. Now, Michael Spinell, you say your question was really about was this Jesus, right? Now, there are references in the Old Testament that I believe are talking about Jesus. It says in some places the angel of God, which that word is messenger of God, but then in the same passage it will say it's the Debar Yahweh, the word of God. And that is literally the Logos. And so I've taught it in one of my videos called the Logo Tautheou, the Word of God. I have a video called that. And it's not only is Christ the Logos of God, the Logo Tautheou in the Greek, but in Hebrew, he's the Debar Yahweh. And it's the same phraseology. And that word Debar in Hebrew is not used when it's talking about the voice of God, like the words of God, the speaking. It's specific to this angel being, and that was Christ, I believe, in the Old Testament. So we do have references to Christ in the Old Testament that I believe is true, and then we have references to Michael. Now, the video I'm going to release today later that I did this week on the rapture, the resurrection, and the 2 witnesses, I use in that video as reference point the writing called the Gospel of Nicodemus, or the Acts of Pilate. It's an early Christian writing that was used by the churches. It's pretty well known and authoritative. And in that writing, it talks about Christ going down to Hades, and as he's setting the captives free and rescuing them, he delivers them into the hands of Michael the Archangel to take them to paradise, to take them to the Garden of Eden, which they were supposed to inherit according to the prophecies. So in that writing alone, depending on your view of its authority, authenticity, all those things, this was an early Christian writing that shows that the early Christians believed that Christ commanded Michael. So Christ was not Michael, and there's no way he could be according to those writings. So there's that. And that's the main context that I'll be able to bring to this conversation as of right now. But no, I do not believe that Michael is Christ at all. There's probably, if I looked hard, I could find probably many other writings that also talk about Michael and Christ at the same time. I just haven't really looked for that. Michael, you say, what's the writing? It's called the Gospel of Nicodemus. And it's also called the Acts of Pilate, because Pilate is purportedly the one that wrote down the writing. And so it goes under both names, but yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's something that I should look into, probably find references where it does the same thing. I'm sure there's other writings and other things. I'm sure there's early church fathers that talk about both Michael and Christ. So I would just have to find those again as more evidence that, the early Christians didn't believe that Michael and Christ were the same. But that Christ, by the way, almost every angel's name ends in Ha-el or A-el because it was the angel's real name was the precedent, the prefix of the name, and then A-el was of God. So it was almost a way of saying, yeah, this is an angel because it's the Mik-ha-el, it's the whatever of God. It's the Sam-a-el, which that was Satan's original name, of God. Raphael, you name it. You go to the book of Enoch, Azazel, all of them were of God because they were angels, and he created them. So, anyway, interesting stuff. So I think that'll take care of that topic for today. So, because of the time, guys, we've done a good thing here. I think we've gone through a lot of stuff, talked about a lot of good stuff. So I hope it's just helpful for all you guys and that you've gotten a lot out of this today. Those other topics, let's see, what were they again? The other topics we had were, so many windows open. Philippians 2:10 through 11, Squiffy Bear. Oh man, Squiffy, this is going to be number 1 next time. I'm just telling you, you're getting first place next week. And then the history of preterism, the historicism and preterism, when did it start? C. Jones, that is also one that I was kind of, when you mentioned it, I was like, I hope I can do that justice. Maybe because now we're going to take that to next week, I can do that justice. And then Lindsay Ball on Tyre, is it destroyed? That's another one I really would like to spend at least a little time looking into before I talk about it. I don't want to sound too stupid. I want to do it justice. So I appreciate that. And I will take these topics for next week. But guys, it's been awesome today. God bless you all in your day. I hope that your Sunday is amazing. And I just thank each and every one of you for joining today. Such a cool time we have to get together. And again, I'm sorry for the problems with the stream early on. All I can do is say, I don't know what happened. Maybe I clicked some button somewhere that is possible. I don't know. It seemed really awkward at that beginning there. So y'all take care, and God bless each and every one of you. Some of you probably on here that I didn't see names of. Thank you for joining, and take care. Bye-bye.